Most people, they feel frustrated because they don't even know their life's purpose. They wake up every day wondering if they're on the right path. But no matter how hard they search, they can't seem to find the right answer. That's because they've been told a lie, that meaning is something that you find. What if meaning is something you create? And I get how it feels like, that you should have figured it all out by now. Like everyone else is moving forward with some grand sense of purpose, while you're just stuck trying to make sense of it all. It's exhausting. And honestly, it makes you question if you're missing something. I used to feel the exact same way. And then I realized we weren't meant to find meaning like a map. We were meant to paint it almost like a blank canvas in front of us and a brush in our hands. And once I started seeing it that way, everything changed. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through why chasing purpose keeps you stuck, and an easy 3-step plan on how to step into the mindset that finally sets you free. And by the end of it all, you won't just understand where purpose comes from. You'll feel confident in how to create it for yourself. Let's be real. Most people aren't lost because they're lazy or they're clueless. They're stuck because they've been sold a version of purpose that just doesn't work anymore. We've all been told it's something that you find, like some magical light bulb moment that hits when you land the right job, or you meet the right person, or you finally get your life together. But think about it. How many people do all the right things? They check the boxes, they climb the ladder, they follow the script, and still feel empty. They still feel like something's missing. It's not your fault. It's all a trap. And the real villain here isn't your lack of motivation. It's that quiet little lie that keeps whispering, you haven't found the right purpose yet, so keep looking. It keeps you chasing purpose like it's hiding somewhere out there, almost as if you have to play Where's Waldo. So you keep waiting for a sign, waiting to feel ready. But here's the truth. You've been looking for something that was never meant to be found, because it was never out there in the first place. And as long as you believe that meaning is something outside of you, you'll always feel like you're falling short, because you're searching in places that were never meant to give it to you in the first place. So let's clear something up. You're not broken because you haven't found your purpose yet. You're just working off of the old blueprint. And we've been taught that meaning is something that we stumble across. So we end up chasing the next opportunity, the next self-help book, the next version of ourselves that finally gets it. And in the meantime, we feel behind, anxious, disconnected, like something's missing, but we can't put our finger on it. Here's the first mental shift we all need to work through. Shift number 1. Meaning isn't something that you find, it's something that you make. Not out there, but in here. With your attention, with your presence, with your intention. You don't wait for life to hand you meaning. You bring it. So what does that actually look like in real life? It means instead of asking, what's my purpose? You start asking, what meaning do I want to bring to this very moment? And you can literally assign meaning to anything. So that 9 to 5 that you're dragging yourself through, maybe it's not your dream job, but it is funding your vision, feeding your family, building your discipline. That's meaning. Maybe it's that hard season you're in right now, and it's not fun, but it's shaping your character. It's making you stronger and wiser. That's meaning. Even the everyday stuff like cooking dinner to nourish your body, or folding laundry so your house isn't a mess and you can think clearly, or walking your dog. It all becomes sacred when you decide it matters. Because meaning isn't passive. It's a choice. And once you get that, you stop waiting for purpose to knock on your door, and you become the one who walks in it, with purpose already in your hands. Now, here's what usually happens next. Because once someone realizes that meaning isn't something you find, but something that you make, some hit a new kind of wall. Because they start asking, okay, but what am I supposed to do with all this freedom? And that's where a lot of people freeze. Not because they're lazy or unmotivated, but because they're overthinking, waiting for the perfect plan, or waiting until it all makes sense on paper, waiting for a spark or some type of divine certainty that says, yes, this is it. But clarity doesn't show up while you're just thinking about your path. It shows up while you're creating it. And that brings us to our next mental shift. Clarity comes from creation, not contemplation. Clarity lives inside the making, inside, the writing, the sketching, the building, the trying. You don't just think your way into purpose. You create your way into it. And that doesn't mean you need to go big or be perfect. It just means you need to make something real, even if it's a little messy, even if it's small or abstract or doesn't even make sense. Because every creative act gives you feedback. Each attempt shapes your direction. Because at that point, you start to see what resonates with you, what drains you, what makes you feel alive. You won't know until you make something and watch how it lands. And that's the trap most people fall into, because they wait until they feel ready to start. But the truth is, creation is what gets you ready. And if you keep waiting for full clarity before you begin, you'll end up in an endless loop of preparation disguised as purpose. You'll call it planning, you'll call it alignment, but really, it's just fear in a costume. So instead, try this. Pick one idea, one instinct, or one small pull, and create something around it. Write the line, build the outline, test the idea. Not to be perfect, but to play, to learn, to express yourself, and to make the invisible finally visible. Because clarity doesn't come from having all the right answers. It comes from making something real and letting it show you what's next. And maybe that was the whole point of all of this. Maybe life was never supposed to come with step-by-step instructions. Maybe you weren't sent here to follow a script, but to improvise, to shape, to create. Because when you really think about it, you weren't dropped into this world with a manual. You were handed a brush, and in this life, it's your canvas. You choose the colors, you choose the intensity of the strokes. You get to decide what it all means. Not because you're making it up, but because that's what you were meant to do. Because at the end of the day, we're all just creators by design. Not because we were supposed to have it all figured out, but because we were meant to figure it out by doing. Now, even with all this freedom and knowing that meaning is something that you create and clarity comes from doing, let's be real. This is where a lot of people get stuck next, because they start asking, what if I chose the wrong thing? What if I waste my time? What if I go all in and it flops? That fear is totally normal, because we've all been fed this idea literally since we were kids, that purpose is one big grand thing, one passion, one calling, one perfect golden path you have to get right. So what do most people do? They freeze. They wait for some kind of magical confirmation. But that's not how life works. You don't get certainty first. You get movement first. And that brings us to our last mental shift. Purpose expands when you move. Purpose isn't something that you find. It's something that grows as you move. It's not about picking the perfect thing, but it's about following that spark you have. You know, that little nudge, that weird pull, that random curiosity you can't explain? Even if it's just a hobby or some strange skill or a random obsession. Those things, they're not distractions. Almost see them as like invitations. Because when you start moving toward what lights you up and you stick with it long enough to refine it and to get really good at it and to start helping others, that's when purpose starts to show up. So you don't have to have it all figured out in one day. You just have to move. Because here's what most people miss. A lot of people don't stumble on their purpose at the start. They all follow a thread. They build a skill. They solve a problem. And somewhere along the way, they look up and go, oh, this right here, this is what I was made for. So don't wait around for confidence and just start with curiosity. Pick one thing that's been tapping you on the shoulder. Try it, stick with it, get good at it. And then you ask yourself, who can I help with this? And that's where it all begins. Not in your head, but in motion. So here's what we've uncovered. Number 1, meaning isn't something you find, it's something you make. Number 2, clarity comes from creation and not contemplation. And lastly, purpose expands as you move. So that old way of thinking, it keeps you stuck in your head, chasing the perfect moment, the perfect calling, and the perfect path. But the new way, it starts right where you are, with curiosity, with courage, and with a single step. So your challenge for now is just to pick one thing you've been curious about. It doesn't have to be perfect or make sense to anyone. Just one thing you've been curious about, that's all. Try it for 30 days. Don't just dabble, but fully commit to it. And you can refine it along the way. Get good at it. And then, if you need to pivot, it's totally fine. But at least you're one step closer because you're in motion. And if you need a little extra help in your journey, this video is just for you. Until next time.